and joining me. I know that my voice was not exactly the most melodious experience, but I appreciate you being here. Tomorrow, Yaz is going to be here, so it should be a lot of fun. Definitely join us for that. And with that, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Ritchie. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day with me, my contributor, none other than Mr. Jordan Uhl. Always fascinating to have his analysis on the program. Top story of the day. Hakeem Jeffries leader of the Democrats in Congress, refuses to say the terminology abolish ICE. Here it is.
And how can we stop ICE agents from behaving with violent impunity?
But now, wouldn't it stop them if they just stopped being an agency? Just abolish ICE.
But I don't know what you're suggesting in terms of the funding fight that's in front of us now. What we're with the one big ugly, but what we're trying to achieve, for instance, I think the most significant thing that can be done amongst the whole list of things that we've talked about, right, substantively, is to ensure that when ICE agents violate the law, when they violate the law, they can be criminally investigated and prosecuted and are not shielded by this principle of absolute immunity, which is one of the things that we've put on the table. And the reason why, just so that I'm clear, my thinking, that we see these people behaving the way they are behaving. It's not just the masks. And of course, we've demanded that the masks come down. It's the fact that they think that the Department of Justice, under Pam Bondi, who's a disgrace, will never investigate them.
Brother Hakeem. If you're not capable of saying the phrase abolish ICE, if you're not willing to agree that ICE is beyond repair and reform, when you're in meetings with individuals who are not as friendly as those individuals would be on a discussion panel, and those doors are closed, I can't trust that you will actually lead with passion and conviction. You're still acting as if you are preparing to take a damn SAT. The individuals who are already at ICE, sir, have been recruited because they are not capable of reform. So they recruited individuals who are not qualified to be the police, who don't give a damn about rule of law, and who intentionally want to create a design of American government that's antithetical to the progress of Black and brown folk, women, LGBTQ communities, etc. Now, those are the individuals who are hired today. Some installations have replaced 80% of their ICE security work detail, meaning the culture has changed. So, sir, in all due respect, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're in a position of leadership, and you may want to attempt to do so at some point in the very near future. Because as long as you continue to contextualize and create intellectual conversation around something where folk are being shot in the face and killed in broad daylight, as long as you're able to intellectualize it, you will never get to the space of doing something about it. Now, you're not touched the same way these communities are being touched. You are touched by proxy, but you're not touched the way these communities are being touched. And the truth is, you probably never will be. So there's a disconnect between your discourse and the reality of millions of folks around this country. Joy Reid did a remarkable job. She pressed them again about ICE. Here it is.
So, sir, if I could just say, if they're willing to break the law of that and they act with so much impunity, is this an agency that can even be reformed? It seems to me that ICE structurally is so flawed that it would perhaps make more sense to end this agency rather than tinker with it. You see what I mean?
What I'm suggesting is that the type of changes that give us the best chance to end the violence now by putting the pressure on the Republicans, because of course, anything that passes now is going to require Republican votes, just a handful in the House and in the Senate, to do the right thing for the American people. And giving state attorney generals, for instance, like Keith Ellison or Tish James, the ability to criminally investigate or prosecute ICE agents who break the law and engage in violence is perhaps one of the more immediate ways under the Trump administration. He's the president right now. Republicans control the House and the Senate. It's one of the most immediate ways that we can give the country the best chance to end the brutality and the violence that is being engaged in with impunity.
I love you, brother, but you ain't ready. You're not ready. Do you see where we are? Do you understand the context of American politics today? When you wanted to be leader, this was a very different America at that time. It has changed quickly, yes, but it is a very different reality for a leader in politics today. There's a polarization that's taking place. You have less middle ground. You have a shrinking independent voter demographic. You have polarization. That has built-in negatives and positives, dear brother. The negatives are known. Here are the positives. We get to see people for who they truly are. Because in polarization, you only become more of what you really are. If you're a great, decent human being, you become more of that. If you are hell-bent on destruction and only hide that destruction through your religiosity, you become more of that. So we get to see people for who they really are. We also get to do some things we would never accomplish under gradualism. Gradualism would have never got us to this place. And people are looking for leaders to lead. This is why those who are on the opposite side of your political agenda are so successful, because those individuals are actually leading, yes, leading people to hell, but they are leading. And because of that, they have people that are following. If you want to lead folk out of hell, you have to lead with the same vigor, if not more, on the other side. And that is the era that you're in. And if you don't want to be a leader in that context, step aside, sir. That answer did not sit well with this particular panelist. Here it is.
Over 60% of Americans now disapprove of ICE. That means in 3 weeks, it's gone from 30% to 60%. Now, if I may, I'm going to be a bit blunt here. Leaders lead. And what we've seen is people are impressionable. If you lead on something, people will follow. It seems the wind is behind your back for the first time ever. ICE has a history. CPP has a history of terrorizing Black and brown communities. People are asking themselves, why are we, our taxpayer dollars, paying for masked, lawless men to terrorize our communities, kidnap people, take children, and kill Americans? So I ask you, and I'm doing a following up to Joy, because I want an answer to this. You said you want to rein in ICE. I'm talking about the long term now. Why not lead and say abolish ICE? Because what you're telling us is you want our taxpayer dollars to pay for a lawless masked armed agency to continue terrorizing our cities. And I'm trying to figure out how you, as a leader, can be telling Americans that their taxpayer dollars should be going to ICE.
I don't understand anything that you just said. I don't understand anything that you've just said to me when I've made clear that taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for the American people, not brutalize or kill them. That's the whole reason we're in this fight right now. That's the whole reason the DHS is getting ready to shut down. That's the whole
abolish
reason
ICE.
why
You agree with me, Joy? Abolish ICE.
Listen, I'm going to use the language that I want to use. You can use the language that you want to use.
Leader Jeffries, you're having a 2026 conversation in a 1996 mindset. It is a different America today. Both times, did you all notice both times when Joy Reid first presented the question to Hakeem Jeffries, and then when the panelists presented the context to Hakeem Jeffries, both times he acted as if he did not understand the question or did not understand their sentiment. Well, I have a third person to remind you of. Do you understand the sentiment of your colleague, Congressman Hank Johnson? Here it is.
do you make of DHS making watch lists of American protesters?
You know, I mean, it's deeply disturbing that we have become a surveillance state. I listened to a woman today talk about how, as a Minnesota constitutionalist following ICE, that person was met at their driveway when they pulled up at home by a ICE agent telling them that they were now on ICE's list and being labeled as domestic terrorists. And so this is ongoing in our communities across the country. It's a reign of terror, and we can't afford to continue to go down this path. And that's why we're going to have to abolish ICE. It cannot be reformed. It's going to have to be abolished.
Clear, concise, with conviction. Did not measure the response, did not check in with the Democratic caucus for a talking point before saying the truth. It just happens to be a truth that the vast majority of Americans, regardless of political affiliation, agree with. I had a 1-hour conversation yesterday with Congressman Hank Johnson. The brother gets it. He's a remarkable human being who gets it. So there is some friction in wording, but it's not just in wording, it's in sentiment and implementation. Fund ICE through reform or abolish them through exacting action and become the co-equal branch of government that you're supposed to be. So there has been a disconnect. Jeffries and Schumer's reforms include, ending warrantless arrest, no mask requiring IDs, no racial profiling, new use of force standards. Now, once again, this is the presentation of Jeffries and Schumer, New use of force standards and requiring body cameras, also prohibiting funds from being used to conduct enforcement near sensitive locations, including medical facilities, schools, childcare facilities, churches, polling places, courts, etc. Keep that up, Jordan. Let me go through this list again. Ending warrantless arrest. You're not supposed to have them now. So you're going to make it extra illegal. Warrantless entry will be more illegal. It's already illegal, but they're doing it. No mask. Requiring IDs. No racial profiling. You haven't been able to accomplish that with your local city police or county sheriffs. And you think that ICE is going to follow. What is your enforcement? You name the infraction. What's the penalty if they racially profile? Oh, you left that part out. You just don't want them to do it. Okay. New use of force standards. They don't give a damn about your written code, sir. And requiring body cameras. So what happens if they turn it off? What happens if they left it at the facility site or inside the car or at home? There's no penalty, no enforcement. Your infraction is only as powerful as the enforcement behind it. Also prohibiting funds from being used to conduct enforcement near sensitive locations. How will you enforce that? Back in 2018, Representative AOC broke down abolishing ICE. Quote, before ICE, we had INS. So we had the Immigration and Naturalization Services. There are very intense operations that we do need to monitor. We have to keep tabs on human trafficking, child sex trafficking, child sexual or sexually explicit content, and of course, just standard immigration in and out. And so INS had handled that before, she says. And so criminal investigations will get forwarded to the Department of Justice, which had the infrastructure to kind of handle those proceedings. And then there are other investigatory arms, either within the FBI or within Health and Human Services, that would handle those different pockets. Quote, Now, when the Department of Homeland Security was established, remember, this is a baby organization. This is a new organization. When the Department of Homeland Security was established, it's concentrated and centralized all of those things into one. And those operations in and of themselves can continue. You know, you can have border and customs do the things that they have always done. The one line that I do want to draw is that when I started talking about this over the weekend, it kind of recently blew up, and I'm starting to see particularly other congressional candidates say, quote, let's return to the INS. And that I want to make sure is not correct either. Quote, this is not about going back to the INS. This is really about, in some ways, we need to go all the way back to the root of our immigration policy to begin with, which the very first immigration policy law passed in the United States was the Chinese Exclusion Act in the 1800s. We've talked about that in Indisputable. And so the very bedrock of U.S. immigration policy, the very beginning of it was a policy based on racial exclusion. And there's more, and I'm going to read. I just want to remind people the beginning of a thing in policy is important because the beginning of a policy creates the DNA of the policy. The DNA of the policy. And when the DNA of a policy is established, we're fighting nurture against nature. The nature of the policy is racist. We're hoping that we can nurture it into a better formation of itself, but the nature of the policy is racist. It goes for many policies in America. We are at nature versus nurture. Quote, and I think that we need to really reimagine, there you go, that's how solutions happen in the creative space of the mind. We need to really reimagine our immigration policy based around two things, like I had said before, foreign policy and criminal justice, and additionally, our economic goals as well. And we really kind of need, I think, to reimagine our immigration services as part of an economic engine, as part of an accommodation to our own foreign policy aims, and where necessary, enforcement of serious crimes like human trafficking and so on. So abolishing ICE doesn't mean get rid of our immigration policy, but what it does mean is to get rid of the draconian enforcement that has happened since 2003 that routinely violates our civil rights because, frankly, it was designed with that structure in mind. That is correct. The backstory of ICE, the Immigration Naturalization Service, INS, was established in 1933 by President Franklin D. Roosevelt to consolidate and regulate Border Patrol activities, oversee enforcement, and to supervise the immigration process only. In 2002, Congress passed the Homeland Security Act. Thus, ICE was created in 2003 through a merger of the investigative and interior enforcement elements of the U.S. Customs Service and the Immigration and Naturalization Service, INS. ICE now has more than 20,000 law enforcement and support personnel in more than 400 offices in the United States and around the world. Now, how did so many career ICE agents get fired or resign or forced to resign? And how is it that Trump and his administration were able to recruit and hire individuals that are not qualified to be ICE agents? How did this happen? How do we have an 80% turnaround of non-qualified enforcement agents at this particular agency? Doge. That's how. That's how it was done. Just 10 years ago, the annual budget for ICE was less than $6 billion, notably smaller than the other agencies within the Department of Homeland Security. But ICE's budget has skyrocketed during Trump's second term, becoming the highest funded U.S. law enforcement agency with $85 billion now at its disposal. You see the chart, right? The chart makes no damn sense. This is building a personal military for domestic use, and we will not allow it on our watch in the United States of America. We are better than this. Nobody voted for this. Nobody voted for this. The windfall is thanks to the one big beautiful bill that we warned and shouted about. The one big beautiful bill, a branding mechanism. enacted last July. After hovering around the 10 billion mark for years, ICE's budget certainly benefited from, well, the spike. Those are your facts. Facts. All right. Jordan, thoughts?
It is an extremely simple question to answer, and you saw Hakeem Jeffries repeatedly avoid it. And that wasn't the only topic. He was also pressed in that interview about AIPAC and donations from AIPAC. And he refused. He tried to deflect, talk about the average contribution from small dollar donors. He's unwilling to be forthcoming, to be honest, to be transparent with his own base. And when we talk about things like ICE right now, funding for ICE, potentially abolishing ICE, or at the very least, committing to that fight to abolish this agency because of what we've seen that they will do. And he throws his hands up and says, well, we're in the minority. Part of being a leader is to give people something proactive to fight for. He's unwilling to do that. And a generous read would be, well, that might be a divisive position, and he doesn't want to hang that anchor around vulnerable Democrats in swing districts in the midterms. That's a generous read. But that also, you have to then reckon with, will he commit to fighting for this after the midterms if Democrats take the House, if potentially Democrats can take the Senate? We're seeing shocking results in special elections in red states where Democrats are flipping red districts in state legislatures by double digits. And these are districts that Trump had in like plus 12, plus 15. And Democrats are flipping these because people are so disgusted by what they're seeing. That is an avenue to fight for progress. You cannot protect the status quo and then expect Republicans to slow down. They have shown that every time they have their hands on the levers of power, they're full send into America's decline. We need leadership that will fight vigorously to take things in the other direction, not preserve the status quo and then expect Republicans to do the right thing. As we have seen time after time, cycle after cycle, Republicans have shown who they are and how willing they are to take things to the extreme. We need someone who is steadfast and vigilant to fight back. And I don't think Jeffries is that person.
Yeah, at least not in this context, for sure. And you're right about the amazing victories that have happened across the state. Some states, the Democrat overperformed the numbers by over 30 points, swinging it from a deficit of 17 to a positive of 20. That goes directly to the heart of this administration. So every time an election is held and a Republican is on the ballot, by proxy Trump is. And you have the wind on your back right now, Hakeem. Dear brother, you have the wind on your back. You can do some things you couldn't do before. Just pause and read the tea leaves if you're willing to lead. All right, we'll bring updates as they come. Hell of a story. I was alerted to this on social media. Thank you for the indisputable viewers who did so. A family demands answers after a black man was found hanging from a tree. Put it up full mass. I'm taking you to Wisconsin. 39-year-old Tori Metley was found hanging from a tree at Brookfield Hills Golf Course, November 13th. The city of Brookfield, the Brookfield police declared his death as self-induced. He unalived himself according to them. So here are some of the details. Metley's death remains under investigation by the city of Brookfield Police Department, and there's no indication of foul play according to them. Chief Chris Garcia told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel via email December 30th. Investigators are still reviewing video surveillance footage, and the department has provided updates to the Metley family, he said, okay? So key to the question surrounding Mr. Metley's death is the fuzzy timeline between when he left his apartment in Milwaukee on November 11th and when he was found in Brookfield the morning of November 13th. The Brookfield police chief told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that no city of Brookfield police officers had contact with Medley between November 11th and November 13th. This is on the record, and this is a fact. It is not in dispute. Medley's phone, his ID, and his red backpack were not found on him, and they were not at his apartment. His sister, her name is Sheena, previously told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel his backpack was later found at Brookfield Square, she said. Medley's family has wanted to know how he got to the Brookfield area and why he was there when he was. Medley had worked at a restaurant in Brookfield, but not since early October 2025 when it closed. He would have to take a bus or get a ride from his apartment in Milwaukee. He did not drive a car. He did not drive a car. He's in a place that typically is not frequented by individuals on the bus. And he's previously in this city in October 2025. And all of a sudden, back in the same city for no apparent reason, recently. There's more. As of December 29th, the Wasatch County medical examiner not yet ruled on a cause of death, and Medley's death certificates is still pending. A representative who answered the phone for the office told the Journal-Sentinel, a pending death certificate is not uncommon. Carrie Lumpton, deputy medical examiner supervisor, told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel in a phone call. So that was December 29th, all right? Medley's family and Wisconsin civil rights groups have criticized police for being quick to label his death a suicide and urged for a transparent investigation and answers, and that answers questions around the timeline that led up to the death. As the family of Tory Medley waits for the results from an official investigation into his death, they're seeking answers through an independent autopsy, and the case has garnered more local attention. I'm going to get into this phase in just a moment, just to provide some context for what the family is saying. The police investigated and immediately concluded that it was self-induced. It did not come from the medical examiner. The medical examiner had not provided that information to the police department. The medical examiner had not concluded the examination prior to the police concluding their investigation as to what they said happened. Now the case is still under investigation by the police, even though they said it shouldn't be under investigation by the police because the police said he did it to himself. But they're still investigating. None of that makes sense, and it will make any family question the reality of what has happened. Anybody. There's more. Put her up, full mask. This is Sheena, okay? Sheena Medley, Tory's sister, told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel on December 30th that her family is now working with an independent pathologist and patiently waiting for final results in their independent autopsy. The family started a GoFundMe fundraiser to help pay for the independent reports. They are expensive. The page has raised more than $7,000 of its $8,000 goal before donations were paused, okay? Courtney's history of the country's history of lynchings and the current political moment contribute to the questions, obviously. And also the fears that a death like Medley's may have been caused by an act of racial violence. Robert Smith, a Marquette University professor of history, said in an interview on 89.7 FM WM, quote, I do think it is absolutely fair to question how this person died, Smith said, quote, and I think we have to be mindful of the political moment that we're in that is heightened around issues associated with bigotry, end quote. Lynchings were violent public acts of violence that white people used to terrorize and control Black people in the 19th and 20th centuries. According to the NAACP and others, from 1882 to 1968, 4,743 lynchings on record, there are more, but these are on record, occurred in the U.S. according to records maintained by the NAACP. But many historians believe the true number to be unreported. 16 lynchings have been documented in Wisconsin, and one of those occurred in Milwaukee. The murder of a 22-year-old George Marshall Clark in 1861, the Journal Sentinel previously reported. Medley's death came in the shadow of another Black man who died under similar circumstances September 2025. Put him up. The body of a Black student, Demar Trevion, they called him Trey. Joy Reid was found hanging from a tree at Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi, generating national attention and stoking fears of lynching due to the state's history of racial violence. Authority there ruled Reid's death as self-induced. They said he unalived himself as well, citing that there was no evidence of foul play, ending the investigation. All right, Jordan, thoughts here, brother?
Yeah, I'm extremely suspicious. The police department is making determinations on how someone died. That's not your job.
Yeah.
It's the medical examiner's job, like you said. Let's wait for that. Why were they so quick to say, no, self-induced here, when there are very real questions about the facts of this matter? Why not investigate that? We can see how thoroughly police departments around the country would investigate other crimes. It's been wall-to-wall coverage of Savannah Guthrie's missing mom. You should apply that at least to some level of similar thoroughness here. Yeah. I mean, it's bizarre that you have very real questions about the facts. The family is saying this doesn't add up, and the police department's just like, nah, we're good. Moving on. That family is owed a full accounting of what happened. They're grieving. Of course they want an explanation and answer. My heart goes out to them. They deserve it. It's the very least a public agency purportedly designed to serve and protect the public should do. But that seems like it's not the case here.
Yeah, and you make a great point. It's not even the police department's call. It's not their call. That is not what they investigate. If there's a death, they have to establish by the medical report cause of death. That medical report is utilized in court, not the police report of what they assume happened. That's considered hearsay because they're not a qualified expert. So that statement wouldn't even be allowed in court. And ironically, when the statement is there's no evidence of foul play, really, I think hanging from a tree is evidence of foul play. If you find something else out other than that, let's stick to the fact that people typically don't do that, especially Black men at a golf course outside of their home district. All right, we'll bring you updates as they come. What if I told you that a Republican chairman decided to waterboard his own teenage daughter? Put him up for a mask. That's according to the allegation and the report before us. A GOP chair has been arrested for waterboarding his teen daughter. A Utah Republican leader has been arrested for waterboarding his 16-year-old child. Why? Because her room was not clean enough. This is 54-year-old David Johnson, chair of the Wasatch County GOP. It's a county GOP outfit. David was booked into the county jail on one count of first-degree felony aggravated child abuse. According to court documents, the arrest came after the Utah Division of Child Safety and Family Services received a report of child abuse. The teen reported not feeling safe in her own home and feared for her life. Now, I want to say to the Utah authorities, they're actually doing their jobs, okay? They don't deserve a hero cookie for it. They're doing their jobs. But compare that to the story we had last week of the MAGA father who shot and killed his 23-year-old daughter inside of his home, and the grand jury decided not to indict. He said it was a mistake. Another court out of the country where his daughter actually lived, she was visiting in America, in Texas, they had to rule it foul play. That what he did was actually reckless and illegal. based on their investigation of the same crime. When Johnson was arrested, he was being held without bail, but during his initial court appearance on Thursday, his bail was changed to $10,000 and he was released from jail after posting bail. How much is $10,000? That's $1,000. Maybe $1,500 because you only pay 10 to 15% of the overall bail through a bonding company. There's more to the story. In an arrest statement, the responding detective wrote that the victim had come home from spending time with friends, and Johnson was upset because she, quote, didn't completely clean her room, end quote. He allegedly grabbed her by the back of the neck and threw her into the bathroom. Johnson then filled the sink with water and, quote, this is on the official report, dunked her head under, brought it out, splashed water in her face, then dunked, end quote, her head again. The victim told law enforcement she could not breathe for 20 to 30 seconds at a time. The 16-year-old victim also disclosed abuse involving other younger family members, including an incident several years ago where a now 8-year-old was brought into the bathroom and had his head forced into a sink of water repeatedly. Quote, when he's home, I never feel safe because I feel like something is going to happen, end quote. The 16-year-old said this directly to the police. She also disclosed being hit by Johnson more than once and stated that he made fun of me crying. While the victim was being interviewed, Johnson was allegedly captured on an outside surveillance camera yelling, quote, we have rights, getting into his vehicle and slamming the door while 2 children were inside. The victim was temporarily placed with a different adult relative after the Utah Division of Child and Family Services responded to the incident. The other children have a safety plan in place that no physical discipline may be used. So the other children are there. The daughter, she has another relative who hopefully would do the right thing and continue to provide safety for that child. But there are children still around this individual who possibly could be unsafe as well. The county Republican Party had an emergency meeting Wednesday on the 11th of February. After the arrest of its chairperson, the party's vice chair would temporarily lead the group. In a statement Wednesday, party leaders said they are, quote, deeply concerned and troubled by the nature of the allegations. It also encourages locals to refrain from judgment until the case is adjudicated. He's set to appear in the 4th District Court for a preliminary hearing on March 11th. We will follow and bring you the update to what happens. I want to say this. It takes a lot for a woman who's being abused to tell the truth on someone they love. You can't imagine what it takes for a daughter to have to do that to her father. And you let him out on $1,000. The courage that it took for the 16-year-old to speak up to what she believed to be safety in the authorities, finally telling her story, articulating the facts, telling someone the truth about her experiences and the experiences of others in that household. And he's out. Still aggressive, still yelling, we got rights. He's out. Sometimes you have to mitigate on what you understand as a right. Because in this situation, you have, according to the allegation, the rights of a 16-year-old being significantly violated. Her rights are of the utmost importance as well. one right that she has is the right of liberty, the pursuit of happiness. All right, dear brother, thoughts here.
There are a few things that come to mind. First, you see how broken our judicial system is. And I can't help but think if in that same part of Utah, I believe, if a person of color was arrested for mugging or some, shoplifting, would they receive that same lenient treatment? I'd say no. This person had political power and influence in that area. They're white and they're male. Those are all things that are treated differently in our judicial system. And the irony here, this is, you scream, we have rights. I looked up that county Republican Party's social media accounts to see what kind of stuff were they talking about. And they're talking about limited government, freedom, family. I mean, you're torturing a member of your family, a child. If this same thing happened, not the same thing. If some minor purported infraction occurred in a classroom in Brooklyn, where a student was, hit on the wrist with a ruler, and that teacher was trans, or that teacher was even just nominally liberal, the right would have a prolonged meltdown. Libs of TikTok would be working overtime to get that person fired. Where is that same outcry here when the chair of the Republican Party in that county literally tortured his daughter for not cleaning her room properly? What are we doing here? I mean, if you really care about protecting children like you say you do, you would apply the same scrutiny and standard here, but they won't.
Well said. And the irony of utilizing the technique of waterboarding, which was, frankly, in the public space, a Republican cover-up, even though some Democrats were down with that too. For him to adopt such a tactic that has been deemed to be unethical, illegal, violating rights, on top of being the chairman of the GOP, it's insane. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT! TYT!
The place is like 95% TYT on.
Favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Tank and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
The people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
All right, welcome back. Good to be with you. We have a lot of comments. I will read as many as I can. Jimmy Lee says, Jeffrey wants more funding for ICE. He just prefers they were more discreet. You're right. He just prefers they were more discreet killing of citizens. You know, got to keep that on the low. Jeffrey needs to step down. Step down or grow one. One or the other. One or the other. Who's sacred? The people that elected you or the people that sponsor you? Which one? And it's okay if you have to change your mind about representing the interest of the millionaires and billionaires to represent the interests of the people. There's no shame in that. I wouldn't shame you. I would be happy that you made that decision. Cena Hogaboom says, the police don't care because this man is already dead. If he was still alive, they would label him a thug who deserved to be locked up. DB Hawk, thank you for that, DB. The Democrat should be taught his style is not working with us. That Democrat should be taught his style is not working with us, especially if we're in this dangerous situation. That's right. Hashtag abolish ICE, please. Hashtag demos do better. DB Hawk, thank you again. My heart is broken for the girl. Her MAGA dad sucks. Yeah, I noticed that too. LS is here. Stumbling, bumbling, Bugs Bunny sound. I mean, he did. It's like, okay, first of all, sir, that's not a hard question. You have to know it's coming. And it seemed as if you were caught off guard, Mr. Jeffrey. Bubba Franks, yeah. Bubba Franks says, Bubba Franks, a sworn dragon, gonna have to abolish Jeffries. V Brown 7436 says, he's that coworker that always presents well at the meeting but never delivers. He so is. He had every one of us believing in him. He gave that damn speech, okay? We were excited. He got his authentic accent going. He leans into it sometimes. All of that just to switch code as soon as it gets in there. Bam. All right. That was a great comparison. Okay, got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Gonna get socked in the face.
Why? I'm American. You're the illegal. Yeah, you are. You're from Laredo. I know your grandparents.
I've been here my whole life.
No, you haven't.
Whatever.
You bought an illegal Social Security number.
You're racist.
I saw her and her uncles and aunts and all cousins swim the goddamn Rio Grande. Because I'm from Tucson and Fort Worth. And she comes from the damn Mayo. She can't say, well, open the door. Now I'm getting claustrophobic.
Sir, are we joning, sir? Is that bigotry and you joning? If you don't know what joning is, it's we utilized that on Glenwood when we would talk about each other in a critical but joking way. This is bigotry. Now it gets worse. It gets significantly worse. Here it is.
I need a doctor or CPR or 911. Okay, this is it. I've got to sit down. I am coming. No. Oh, God, my back. Jesus. I'm coming to you, Jesus. Jesus, mighty God, help me. Oh, Jesus Christ.
They really do.
You can see my crying videos on TikTok and Instagram. My daddy died 9 months ago. Billy Bob of Fort Worth, Texas, the honky-tonk owner. He used to own Mickey Gillies in Pasadena, and he ran Mickey Gilly off and owned it. Then he started his own Billy Bob's in Fort Worth. Other than that, we're having a good day. Oh, my goddamn knees.
I mean, is somebody going to tell him he needs to get off the plane? Is somebody going to say, sir, you're going to be arrested when we land? Like they've done black women who did nothing? Just ask it. Somebody eventually did, say something. Here it is.
Sir, you're going to have to take a seat. This jet bridge is broken, and we need to move to another gate to remove you.
We could have been there, but y'all broke the door. What I said.
You have to sit in your seat.
My God. No, let me follow you. I don't like you behind me. Please. No, seriously.
No, I'm not going to let you follow me. You go to your seat.
Can you show me? Can you come in front of me? Go back to the same row you're in. Somebody give me a signal where I sat. I'm a blind.
So he didn't get a warning. He got okay, now it's time to get in your seat. You just go ahead and go to your seat. Let's go ahead and get in the seat. I thought air marshals were supposed to be on all the, was he off that day? Put it up full mass. I can honestly say that this is the first time I've seen someone do absolutely everything they can do to get a federal charge on a plane. And probably didn't. Jordan, thoughts here, brother?
When I first saw this clip, I had two thoughts. This is a bigot who is either off his meds or a bigot who is blackout drunk. Yeah. There seems to be some aggravating factor here to their bigotry. You don't just become racist because you get too drunk. That is within you already. That might come out easier if you are drunk or some other condition. But I think it wasn't just what gave me that feeling was the prolonged performance, if you will, where he laid down in the row, was crying out for Jesus, just rambling, like something else was happening on top of his bigotry. And I'm leaning more toward like blackout drunk because he couldn't even remember where he was sitting, allegedly. Yeah. So he said, there's something else here, but whatever the problem is that wasn't addressed by him, the lack of self-control, the lack of restraint for his own substance abuse, then leads to a moment like this where you are now humiliated widely because of your bigotry.
Yeah, and still you need to get the hell off the plane, even if that is the catalyst. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT! TYT!
The place is like 95% TYT
You guys, the young church, which is my channel, we're getting that message out.
Tank and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
The people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning. They seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. We got a lot of comments. I'll read as many as I can. Winter Scoop says, Doc, that might have been the air marshal. It's such a sad state of affairs that can actually be true under this administration. Yeah. Which would explain why he was not handled like anyone else. Next TYT reporter. He's not off his meds. He said he was making TikTok material. Right. He did say that. Donald James X 2990. This is why you keep a parachute on the plane. See ya. And V Brown 7436. That privilege card never declines. V Brown also says if he was a black male acting like that, it would have been duct taped. The Quan for life. That should be a federal crime for disturbing. Yeah, of course it is. It's a disorderly. TJ 9416. Somebody want to come pick up their dad off the floor. He's having an Alzheimer's attack, poor thing. All things so. Dr. Richard, please run for president. I will vote for you. Yeah, no, I pass. But thank you for the sentiment. I don't want to kill people. You know, you got to think about that. You run for president, you have to kill people. And that's not my calling. But I do want to hold people accountable to give people life. And so, but thank you for the sentiment. It's well appreciated. Cascadia Hermit, not even a good fool, a damn fool. Yeah. Cascadia Hermit, he thinks he's doing a comedy routine. Yeah, there's one thing happening in his mind, and there's another thing happening in real life. Kind of like Donald Trump. Okay. All right. What if I told you that a teacher had the audacity to put up a sign that says, well, put it up. I mean, this is a high crime now. This is reason to get fired. You have to leave. A school teacher had the audacity to put up a poster in front of children at that said, quote, everyone is welcome here. A former West Ada School District teacher, Sarah Enama, has filed a federal lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of an Idaho law that led to the removal of her classroom sign reading, everyone is welcome. You got to laugh, not to cry. So she's a school teacher. She's a school teacher. She is in a position of public trust, shaping the moral and ethical minds of young children. But she can't express a sentiment of unity. She can't do that. That's going too far. We highlighted a school teacher on Indisputable who was secretly recording, who was secretly being recorded by a student while defending killers who are ICE agents. They didn't remove him, according to Idaho Ed News. The school teacher, now employed by the Boise School District, is seeking a declaration. This is called a declaratory judgment, okay? She's seeking a declaration from the U.S. District Court for the District of Idaho that the law which prohibits the display of certain flags and banners violates both the U.S. Constitution and the Idaho Constitution. The lawsuit names several defendants, including the Idaho State Board of Education, Idaho Attorney General, and the West Ada School District officials. So let me explain why this case is different than a typical negligent fire or defamation case. In a declaratory judgment, you're seeking the court to provide a judgment to a law. You're not seeking compensation per se, but you're seeking a declaration of what the law actually can do and cannot do because it needs to be challenged. And so you file a declaratory judgment or declaratory motion to get a declaratory judgment. It's basically an opinion of the court, okay? But it is a binding opinion of the court, and it has to settle a matter of actual conflict. So January 2025, the teacher was instructed to remove 2 signs promoting inclusivity. What? You want to be inclusive, madam? As a school teacher, you want to teach children unity. So she did this from her classroom at the Lewis and Clark Middle School in Meridian. The signs were deemed out of alignment with district policy against controversial issues and, quote, advancement of individual beliefs. Idaho Ed News says that House Bill 41, signed into law by Governor Brad Little around the same time, the bill prohibits K through 12 public schools from displaying flags or banners expressing opinions or beliefs on politics, economics, society, faith, or religion. Put the banner back up. Now let's see. The banner says, everyone is welcome here. Attorney General argued that the rainbow colors on the poster, the rainbow colors, the colors that are provided by nature, the rainbow colors were, quote, progressive symbols aligned with diversity, equity, and inclusion. The lawsuit contends that the Attorney General's stance infringed on the First Amendment rights of the school teacher. Quote, Ms. Inama's First Amendment rights are and were infringed by the speech regulations and will continue to be threatened absent relief from this court, her lawyer stated to Idaho Ed News. The lawsuit argues that teachers retain the First Amendment right or their First Amendment rights within schools and that welcoming students of all races and ethnicities is a legal obligation. The defendants have 21 days to respond to the complaint. So there's a larger conversation that should happen around this, and I don't think this is the case to have that larger conversation in the legal or policy sense. But there is a relevant conversation about protected speech. I would give an example. There are many judges and also public officials who have the 10 Commandments in their courtroom, or they have the 10 Commandments inside of their cubicle or office. This was a big fight. The 10 Commandments basically is allowed because the way that district courts started ruling on this was basically saying, in a loose way, the 10 Commandments represent the genesis of statutory law, even though it is not statutory legal code. All right? So, it's kind of silly, but that's their workaround, okay? Her statement represents actual law. Everyone is welcome is a law. Why? Because it's illegal to discriminate openly. It's illegal to utilize discriminatory practices. It's against the law in public school. You can't do it. is statutorily illegal. So her statement is statutorily legal, is my point. So if you qualify the U.S., if you qualify the Ten Commandments as something that is a constitutional protection, and you don't qualify this woman's statutory language that's been rephrased as within the same framework, if not a better framework, because the opposite of that is against the law, you got an issue. And then the second thing, the colors. You kidding me? It's a school, Attorney General. Any school is going to have the colors of the rainbow. Hell, they may have actual rainbows, sir. In some elementary schools, I've been there. I've spoken at them. Rainbows are good. So the colors that God gives you via nature, you can't have those combination of colors because, well, that obviously represents something. Inclusion, diversity, LGBTQ community, so we can't have that, even though there's been no proclamation to say so. These individuals are quite ridiculous, madam. We will do anything we can to help you, but I do believe you'll win your case in the declaratory judgment. All right, Jordan, thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm thinking back to my elementary school experience and wondering if that would fly today. In my kindergarten class, you had a sign on the wall that was the golden rule: treat everybody the way you want to be treated. I don't see how that is dissimilar from everyone is welcome here.
That's right.
The themes are pretty similar, if not ultimately advocating for the same principles. Welcome everyone. You'd want to be welcomed, right? Of course. But the way they see that as objectionable reflects what society they ultimately want to create, which is a white Christian nationalist society that is festering in places like Idaho, in the rural parts of this country, and they will try to enforce it in more liberal areas as well. That's to go back to a conversation we had earlier. Accounts like Libs of TikTok, who single out teachers for celebrating inclusion, celebrating diversity, as we should, because it is an objectively good thing. They see that as objectionable. They see that as divisive. To them, diversity makes us weak and more divided. I don't want a uniform country. I don't want a homogenous country. It's boring. It's sterile. Why would you want that? They do so out of hate, fear, bigotry, whatever, ignorance. But what's wrong with this sign? But again, it's because they want, like you're saying, the 10 Commandments in school. They definitely want that in Texas. That's a big fight right now. They want it in courtrooms. What does that signal to everybody else? What does that signal to our Muslim neighbors, our Jewish neighbors, or what people who are irreligious? No, to them, they only want a white Protestant Christian nationalist system that everyone else must conform to. I'll fight against that any day.
Yeah, well said. Give us your tired, give us your poor, give us your, well, I guess that you can't say that now, not under those rules. All of it becomes, by proxy, it becomes an indictment on the general use of good expressions. Like, how is the statement of, I believe that you have the same rights as me. I believe that you have inalienable rights. I do too. I believe that you have a spark in you. I do too. I believe that we are equal and we should enjoy equitable treatment. Because if you say everyone is welcome, is a political statement that cannot be uttered inside of a public school, then how can you justify saying anything else that's an expression of the same? So this fight is bigger than just this school system, is my point. We'll bring updates as they come. We got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor, or concern for whose toes we might step on, or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT! TYT! The place is like 95% TYT Army.
Favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Tank and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
The people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning. They seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
Welcome back. We got a lot on the show left. Let me read some of these comments. R Dede, it is the equal part the superiors have an issue with. That's right. It's saying anything that creates equal, equitable. Dex says that teacher's sign runs counter to oppression, clearly a bridge too far. DB Hawk 3, a school teacher suing her state government for that. This is making waves to the right type of teachers everywhere. The Truth Dragon NJ09, it was none of those. It was a sign of courtesy. That's right. And Dougie 13, I'm gonna have to get my potatoes from somewhere else. We'll see how the judge rules on this. I hope the judge rules correctly. Okay. A Kansas City cop has to resign because he's already done shot 3 people. Put him up full mass. Literally, this cop had to just leave his job because he's shooting too many individuals. A white Kansas City cop shot and killed 3 people over the course of his 9-year career. He will receive a $50,000 payout, not a charge. KCPD calls this, quote, an agreed departure. An agreed departure. Okay, quote, as of February 13, 2026, and by mutual agreement, Blaine Newton has resigned from the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, said an email sent by the Captain Jake Bacina. Quote, this agreed departure brings certainty and closure to the matter. No, it doesn't. I will get into that in a moment. Newton will be paid a $50,000 settlement and will be barred from any future employment with KCPD, according to a settlement agreement released by the department, but he's free to work at another one. His victims, Newton, shot and killed Donnie Sanders, an unarmed 47-year-old black man, March 2020, after chasing him for speeding. Sanders' family filed a $10 million civil case against the department. Newton shot 16 rounds into a minivan. This was June 2023. Incident that killed 2 people and injured a third. KCPD settled a wrongful death lawsuit with the families late last year for $3.5 million. It was later learned that Newton should not have been in Jackson County that night. He was out of his jurisdiction as he had been placed on duty out of the North Patrol, which covers Platte and Clay counties. He told investigators that he went to a KCPD station to go to the bathroom. He was outside of his directed, ordered location. Put him back up again. That is a defund the police machine right there. They have had to settle case after case after case. He has effectively defunded their police department so much that they just need him to walk off. 2022, while off duty, he also assaulted a Black woman. In 2024, Lansing, Kansas woman was awarded $65,000 for the 2022 attack. After accusing Newton of assault, battery, and false imprisonment, the plaintiff, who was a Walmart shopper when this occurred in 2022, said she was simply trying to record an arrest, which is completely legal. The prosecutor's office declined to file criminal charges last week. So Newton, a 9-year veteran who made $94,900 a year, ducked criminal charges in late January when Jackson County prosecutor Melissa Johnson announced that she could not, quote, ethically or legally file charges against Newton in a triple shooting despite her concerns with the pattern of cases. Damn lies. You cannot ethically or legally file charges. You are the only entity who can legally file charges. It's such a ridiculous comment. You're elected to file charges. You represent the matter of the people versus the state versus. You represent the one entity that actually can do something, but you can't legally do it. Makes no sense. Ethically, I don't even want to get into that because I think you just made up something. Admitting her decision might be, quote, deeply painful to the victims' families. Johnson said that in a 2023 case, Newton used permissible force in defense of others, responding to the van's front passenger who was firing at another vehicle. Missouri law says a person cannot be held criminally liable when they unintentionally strike a third party while defending themselves or others, she said. Now, she utilized one case in order to validate not charging him for any of the cases that he could be charged for. So keep in mind, it's to get you to look at one and not pay attention to the others. There are chargeable offenses in other instances that are available to the prosecutor. Reaction. So, quote, this officer has took my family, has wounded my son for the rest of his life. He has caused trauma to our family, said Ebony Allman, sister of Marcel Nelson, who was killed by Newton. Quote, you leave your job and you leave the people that you've hurt and lives that have been traumatized left behind, she said. You're not being held accountable for the things that you have done. I feel like it's a cop-out. No pun intended, obviously. Another quote, all of this could have been avoided, said Steve Young, co-founder of KC Law Enforcement Accountability Project. Quote, they knew that Blaine Newton was a problem. We've gotten anonymous calls from people, from police officers who had retired or left, and they even told us how problematic Blaine Newton was, end quote. Quote, while his departure from the Kansas City Police Department may bring a measure of relief to those directly impacted, it does not constitute accountability, Young said in a statement. Quote, if Mr. Newton retains his Missouri police officer license, he remains legally permitted to serve in another community, placing other families at risk and perpetrating the same cycle of violence. Let me tell you why he will likely keep his license. The one charge that this prosecutor still had at her disposal was the charge of violation of oath of office. Violation of oath of office. And the reason is because typically when cops like him engage in these actions, they do not report their own criminal behavior on their police report. They do not report their own criminal behavior on the police report. So the fact that there's a lie on his police report qualifies for the crime of violation of oath of office. If she charged him with that and that alone, that eliminates his license. So understand the prosecutor's playing a game, and the good people of that county deserve better. All right, Jordan, thoughts?
There's a few things here. The only reason people could somewhat exhale is because he resigned. He wasn't fired. I mean, this is the problem. You and I have talked about this. You've covered this for years on this show. The problem is that police departments protect their own and insulate them from any accountability. They'll deflect, they'll distract, they'll try to fudge the account of what happened to protect their own. We can't allow that to continue because you get into situations like this where you have a repeat offender who is costing the taxpayer money for his own bad behavior. I mean, in Los Angeles, I think the police misconduct total payouts over the past couple of years has been in the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And the police department's turning around saying, we need more money. What? You just burned through $100 million in taxpayer money because your own cops were killing and assaulting people. This is a problem across the country. And yes, as we've seen time and time again, police officers who sometimes do face any repercussions will just go to another department and repeat the same patterns of bad behavior. So there needs to be a total comprehensive review and a massive undertaking to totally reform this system. I mean, others have advocated for defunding, and I think that's a great start. Take some of that funding that's going into these police departments and reallocate it to other aspects, other forms of the government, and reinvest in community service so that you have other ways of handling different scenarios that don't lead to someone who is in need of help or someone who may have caused a minor infraction being shot or brutalized or killed. There are many other ways you can mitigate these problems that isn't just punishment, crackdown, take the license. It needs to go a step beyond that.
That's right. The goal of policing was not policing. The goal of policing was public safety. The goal of policing is public safety. And so defunding the police is to reimagine and reprioritize a policing budget to focus on preventative measures and also rehabilitation so that you have more safety in the public overall. And that has been lost in the conversation of policing. We'll bring updates as they come. All right, a black veteran, and I was alerted to this by viewers of Indisputable, calls for aid as his daughter suffers heart failure. Here it is.
I'm a U.S. veteran. She's an Air Force veteran of 5 years. She's laying here with heart failure, fighting for her life, giving everything she got. She's been approved, accepted at Stanford Hospital for transfer from this hospital, Sunrise Medical Center here in Las Vegas, to be transferred to Stanford Medical Center. The VA is saying that she's not worthy enough to be transported. A transport team, a private transport team, said they'll transport her for $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 that has to be paid immediately. I hope y'all blow up whatever social media you got, make the contact to the right people that Somali get her life saved. She fought for this country. She's been in the military. She served this country. And the last thing they can do is serve her and give her a second chance on life.
Put her up. I feel for this father. I feel for this daughter. The irony of risking your limb and life to fight for a country that won't give you a ride. The father, former U.S. veteran, pleading for the public's help as his daughter fights for her life. He stated she suffered from heart failure and that the Department of Veteran Affairs has denied her transportation to another hospital that will be able to better care for her, saying his daughter isn't worthy of transporting. She served this country and deserves another chance at life. We agree with you. Put her back up. To every veteran, if you agree with my political stance or not, this conversation is above that. To every veteran, you know this isn't right. This dad, this show, the viewers, we shouldn't have to raise money for someone in this situation. Because think about it. They'll spend $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 on maintenance for one day of Trump's gold ballroom. Okay? They have no issue spending money on him. Private jets, another jet, trips with staff. But they can't give her a ride. She's been approved. She's been cleared. Why does it cost so much? Because the van has to maintain specialized equipment. That's why, to keep her alive in transport. It's an expensive routine. Put it back up. Let's help raise some more money for this family. They have reached their goal. We want to give them a little bit more. Help our daughter reach Stanford for critical care. They are just north of that 80,000 as of the last time we checked. We can give them a little padding. One thing that people do in situations like this, because they're just so they're so noble and they're just looking at taking care of the bill. That bill may have some other things connected to it that they need to take care of. Okay, it may be a little north of what they thought, and if that's the case, we want to help. The only milestone that they are facing is the transportation company going back and forth on the day and the time of the transport. We're trying to get her transported ASAP while the transportation company is saying Monday or maybe Tuesday, and we're in dire need of medical transportation, flight crew, et cetera. So we're going to stay on top of this. We're going to provide a link in the description of the video as we post this so you can contribute, and we will update you on this in just a few days, all right? My prayers with you, dad and daughter, and positive vibrations. Okay, Jordan, thoughts?
Yeah, of course, we want to support this as best we can if we're able. And also, it's a moment to take a second and remind ourselves that this doesn't need to happen. This is preventable. Other developed countries have systems that don't allow people to fall in this situation where they need to crowdfund just to get life-saving medical care. We can do this. If every other developed country has figured it out, so can we. There's a great sense of national pride here that allows people to, come together and send a team of people to the moon. You can develop the smartphone, all of these advancements. We pride ourselves on innovation and advancements, but when it comes to healthcare, suddenly we just can't figure it out. And it only helps the health insurance companies, big pharma, everyone pad their bottom line. And then you add in the veteran element to this.
Yeah.
At the very least, they should be taken care of. They shouldn't be in this situation. They served this country. At the very least, this country can be there for them in a moment like this. It is just complete and utter failure and preventable failure across the board.
That's right. It's a policy failure, 100%. Okay, and we will bring you updates. RFK Jr., presidential appointee, admits to snorting cocaine off of toilet seats. Here it is.
You can take a gun, shoot somebody in the face. It's not hard. Sometimes it might even be fun if they're a godless commie.
Now, what they're trying to do is sneak the COVID vaccine in your salads.
I hate math. Somebody say amen.
Well, I mean, for me, I said this when we came in, and I said, I don't care what happens. I'm going to a meeting every day.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not scared of a germ. I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats.
Sir, you are Health and Human Services potential, sir. You are the best candidate that this nation has ever appointed to that position. Put it up for a mass. When I heard Robert F. Kennedy Jr. reflect on his cocaine snorting days, I was completely unsurprised. Yeah, of course he did. He's talked about it. Now the off of toilet seats part is new. And honestly, I don't even rag the guy for it. It's his current state of mind that I'm concerned about. His current policy reality that seems completely delusional and antithetical to progress. Though the admission may come as a surprise to some, Kennedy has spoken about his previous experiences with drugs in the past. I'm not totally convinced he's not on some today. During a speech in front of thousands of health care, law enforcement, and business officials at the RX and Illicit Drug Summit in Nashville, April 2025, Kennedy said that his policy perspectives were influenced by the 14-year heroin addiction that he overcame. By his own account, Kennedy's first experience with drugs happened in the summer following his father's assassination in 1968. He took LSD at a party, and while walking home later, he was introduced to opioids by his neighbors, great neighbors, obviously. They said, try this, and it was a line of crystal meth. I mean, that was a hell of a party night. What are you complaining about there? So in all seriousness, he says, my addiction came on full force. By the end of the summer, I was shooting heroin, which was my drug of choice for the next 14 years. Kennedy said in his speech that his recovery began after he was arrested in 1983 and sought treatment. All of that are actually positives in my book about him. All of those are positives. And I say openly, honestly, I live my recovery out loud. It's been over 10 years since I've had a drink, okay? And we take it a day at a time. So that part is redemptive. Whatever's happening in his head today, however, is not. All right, Jordan, thoughts here?
Look, I'm not going to knock anybody for previously having a substance abuse issue. I would encourage people to get help now if they are still dealing with one. And as we talked about in our Wish a Karen Wood segment, I'm not going to allow that to cover up for the fact that you're a bigot. There's different ways to approach this. If he got clean, great. That's awesome. I don't think that excuses bad public health decisions in his current role in the government. But also for this, I'm just very curious what situation he was in where there wasn't another surface other than a toilet seat. I guess I have a lot of logistical questions here, Doc. Like, you didn't have like a countertop in that bathroom? You chose the toilet seat? Or you were only in a room with a toilet? Like, what's happening here? I just have logistical questions. You couldn't use the top of the toilet, the tank, the lid for the tank? I don't know.
Sir,
I have follow-ups.
Your questions are so profound, sir. I'm now thinking like that. You've sent me to other dimensions about what the hell was really happening in that bathroom. All right, Jordan, always fascinating to have you on the show, brother. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
You can check me out on Instagram, Jordan Uhl _. I got a new video every day.
Awesome. Thank you for all you do, my friend. Appreciate your leadership. All right. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.